Georgie, fire away, mate. You're great at telling stories, so tell us in the best way you know how.
Okay. Well, basically, I had what you would call a spiritual awakening or a crown chakra opening through the raising of my Kundalini. So basically it all started, I was in the music industry and I was one of the best booking agents in the country, and I worked for INXS's touring agency. And my lifestyle was basically sex, drugs and rock and roll. And I was deeply and profoundly unhappy. The more successful I became at that, the worse of a human being I felt like I was becoming. So to cut a long story short about that, I had an experience with one of our artists that made me decide that I no longer wanted to give my life energy over to support the egos and the careers and the lives of these selfish, egotistical people. So I started doing Tai Chi. And when I started doing Tai Chi, my body started changing, my energy levels started increasing. So I gave up drinking alcohol, I gave up smoking cigarettes, I gave up smoking marijuana, I gave up taking cocaine, I gave up all the sort of drugs, and I even gave up sex because I found that I wasn't in a long-term relationship. The sex that I was having on a casual basis was deeply unfulfilling. So I went through this whole process over time, and Tai Chi and Qigong was the foundation of that. So I was purifying myself physically and emotionally, and I did stuff like rebirthing, and I was doing meditation. And so anyway, what I was doing is I was going out to like nature, to the end of the point, Lizard Darling Point, and I was asking, the universe, God, the Great Spirit, whatever you want to call it, to be shown what my life purpose was, because I'd become successful in what my ego thought that I would want. Sex, drugs, beautiful women, rock and roll, music industry, fame, all that sort of stuff. And I was very unhappy with that. So I decided that a higher force, would know what was better for me than what my ego would know and what my true spiritual purpose. So during that process, I had a dream that I was on the rock and roll train. And so I had to get off the rock and roll train. And in the
I love it.
When I looked at the train, I got off the station because I went, wow, I can get off the train. And as soon as I thought that, then I was off the train and on the station, and I watched the train go by in my dream, and everyone on the train was a skeleton, and all the bands are playing and everyone's drinking and smoking and carrying on. And then I went, oh, wow, like they're all dead. And then I looked, and the train was going down the track, and in the front of the track, not too far in the future, was this black hole, an abyss, and the train was just about to go down into the abyss. And I went, wow, like I've just saved myself from going down the abyss, and if I stayed in the rock and roll train, I was going to die because they were all dead. So I took they were spiritually dead. And then I started flying. I had this amazing dream. It was a prophetic dream, and it changed from being on the rock and roll train to being in this absolute paradise, right? And so it ended up, several years later, I ended up moving to that paradise, which was Bronte Beach in Sydney. But at the time, I didn't know. I won't go into the details of the dream. And so anyway, I started this whole process of Tai Chi and then Qigong, and then synchronicity. The more I was asking the universe, things were falling into my lap. So someone said, do you want to go to this meditation circle? I went, oh, yeah, okay, well, cool, I like meditation. And they said, oh, it's a chakra meditation. Well, I didn't really know what that was, but I went, oh, yeah, okay. So I went along to that. And in this meditation circle, I was having these amazingly profound imageries. And I was going through like layers and layers and layers, and I was seeing myself in the Egyptian temples. I seen myself in the Mayan temples. I could see myself in multiple realities, and I was having like what I know now is multi-dimensional experiences. I was experiencing myself, as in an Egyptian temple, as a half reptilian, half human being, in the Mayan temples as a Mayan priest, and in the meditation circle. I realized that all those experiences were all happening simultaneously, but you might say, well, some of them were past lives or whatever. So I was experiencing time as the eternal now. Plus I was doing Qigong and stuff like that, and my chakras started opening up. Like I was doing Qigong and my crown chakra started hurting at the end of Qigong. There were, my palms of my hands were pulsing. My chakra areas started aching and I didn't even really know what they were. Then I went to this meditation circle and we focused on those centers and visualizing those centers. And I was also doing yoga. So I was doing Qigong, Tai Chi. I went to the gym. So I was doing 3 to 4 hours of exercise a day, doing yoga, doing meditation, a vegetarian diet, getting off all the drugs and everything. And then asking the universe, what my life purpose was. So one day in yoga class, we were doing pranayama. And in pranayama, it's a breathing exercise, and I felt something uncoil at the bottom of my spine, like something like, it was an uncoiling, and it started to wind up and went up my back, and it went to just between my shoulder blades, where I've probably got a little bit of a scoliosis, and it went back down. And I went, oh, wow, what was that? That was really amazing. Like the next week in meditation, my meditation teacher said, you're going to have a Kundalini awakening. And I went, oh yeah, whatever. And so I didn't even know what that was. And she was a psychic, like a clairvoyant. So I went back to the meditation group and I was meditating and I was popping through all these layers, pop, 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 doing all this chakra imagery, being in crystal temples, every new age fantasy stuff you could possibly imagine in all those books and the new age artwork. I was having visualizations of all that stuff, pyramids, Stonehenge, etc. And then what happened is I went to this layer and it was this clear mountain lake and everything just went totally clear and still. And then at that point, I was flashing through and visualizing this meditation where fire was coming up to my crown chakra, then going cold water down to my base. And then my base chakra was like a boiling cauldron. And then it would just go up to the back of my spine and my crown. So I was doing this thing, which I later found out was called the microcosmic orbit meditation. So in this meditation, I was at this mountain lake area and all these, if you've ever seen an image of like stars, Hubble takes photos of stars and like a ball of light with these 8 points coming off it. Well, it was filled with all these imageries of like 8-pointed stars were coming closer around me. And the lady in the meditation said, they're in your aura, George, speak. And at that moment, I felt the presence, felt like about 30 people walked into the room, swung around me, and then came into my body, and I started spontaneously channeling. And so they said, we are the Elohim, we are the Lords of Light, we are the co-creators, blah, 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 all this channeling stuff. And I sort of opened my eyes, went, wow, what's happening? And when that happened, every chakra went pop, 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 like that. It was like this zipper going up like that. And I was just filled with the most overwhelming presence of love that I'd ever felt. I'd actually never felt love like that. Like the best romantic love that I've ever had, deeply in love with someone, paled in comparison. The most incredibly ecstasy that I'd ever had paled in comparison to the love. And I can literally say that I was in love with everyone and everything around me. And I was just totally in love. And I just was, oh, wow, what just happened? And she went, oh, you had a, crown chakra opening, go close your eyes, go back. So I closed my eyes, back into the meditation. And so I connected with this energy and I started channeling. And there's a lot of information, new agey, sort of about the ascension process and the design and the purpose of humanity and what our true goal and what our true design is and about the future of the earth and that sort of stuff. So anyway, that experience, then when I would, even if I would think about that experience, say the next day I closed my eyes and the energy came around to me again, and it would come into my body, and I'd be having communication with these spiritual beings. So during this period of time, I did stuff like I was able to see people's auras. I was able to read people's minds. I was able to determine what people's emotional blocks were causing them to not be able to feel the divine love of the universe, because all of life is connected with love, right? This incredible, divine, sensuous, erotic, beautiful, overwhelming love. So it's the love is the base chakra and the heart chakra, you know, not one or the other, but both combined. So divine love is sensuous, you know, it's the energy of reproduction. So it's erotic as well. I was invited to merge my consciousness with a tree in the park, in Centennial Park in Sydney. So I got to see what the universe was and life was from a tree's perspective. I had the ability to merge my consciousness with any inanimate object. So I went around doing things like merging with a rock, merging with a tree, and feeling what it was for that thing, what life was like for them, how they experienced life force. And trees provide a very interesting function on this planet, which I can talk about later.
We've got one as a witness with Tennille right there.
Yeah.
At least one.
Yeah. So basically, you know, I had what they would say was like, you know, psychic or clairvoyant gifts, you know, and I had the ability to see, I could see entities attached to people. I performed spirit rescue, like helping someone cross over to the other side. Like I was working at the ABC at the time, and I felt a presence come and grab my elbow and take me up into the elevator, up several floors, and then look into an empty office. What am I doing up here? That night, I'm in meditation. The energy comes around, and this voice speaks to me. He said, you work at the ABC? And I, yeah, having telepathic communication. Yes, I do. And they went, how come nobody else can see me but you? I went, what? He said, well, today I took you up to the office. I went, oh, right, so that's what that was. And I went, well, who are you? And they said, oh, my name's Andrew. And I went, oh, Andrew? He said, yeah, Andrew Wally. And I went, oh, okay, Andrew, well, you're dead. You died like 2 days ago. And then I felt the energy like disappeared away from me and like that. And then it was, oh, and then comes back and goes, okay, well, I'm not very happy about that, but it makes a lot of sense. And I went, yeah, you died really suddenly. And so he said, well, what am I supposed to do? And he said, my wife can't hear me. Nobody can hear me at work. And I said, yeah, because you're dead. And he said, well, what am I supposed to do? And I said, well, you're supposed to, I don't know, pass over. And he goes, well, how do I do that? And I went, and I just had this thought in my mind to tell him to ask for the angels. And he said, and I said, well, ask for the angels. Just think about the angels. And he went, okay. And then he goes, oh my God, I can see them coming. They are beautiful and they are singing. And I'm overwhelmed with love. And I just went, just go with them. So they took him and it passed. So I helped pass him over. Now, I've got no belief system for any of these experiences. I've got no reference point, right? So I'm going, well, what is going on in my life? And so basically, like these sort of experiences kept on continuing. And I would be in, say, Town Hall Station, and I could feel every single person on the train, an emotion coming off them, anger, fear, grief. And I knew that the difference between them and me, and I was experiencing absolute oneness with all of life. And I was in ecstatic love with everyone and everything, that they had an emotion that was blocking them. And I was given information that humanity, like all the animal kingdom, are all connected to this level of love, right? And it's a static, erotic, sensuous love, divine love. But humans weren't, or just about all humans, a few are, right? And it was like, and I was given that was our choice a long time ago, to create our own reality without divine love, because we wanted to do it ourselves. So we were given the opportunity to create this reality without divine love. And so we're not connected to this level. We can have glimpses of it. And I had, through this process, this Kundalini awakening, connected that to that level of love. And I knew what the natural kingdom and how it experiences life force, the divine, God, you know, whatever you want to call it, the great spirit, whatever label you want to put on that energy field. And so that experience lasted for 2 weeks for me, and I was given a lot of profound information. And it changed my life profoundly, like deeply profoundly. I started up a business called Place of Love Promotions, where the goal of that was to promote people who were doing emotional clearing work. I was doing solstice and equinox ceremonies. I was doing, you know, all the stuff that you could do and all the channeling and all that sort of stuff to help humanity go back to this divine level. And I was told in this experience that we're going to go there anyway, that this is our future reality, that the world's going to ascend, humans will ascend, and my role was to help facilitate that. Then I learned feng shui, you know, and I started using that and promoting all these workshops, and it gave me a level of empathy and compassion for people, because in those moments I could feel everyone's just doing the best that they can without this energy force of love driving them that drives all of nature, you know, and so we're doing the best that we can, and we've got these emotions that are blocking us from having these ecstatic experiences. So you know, so I see people now in a far less judgmental way. I also know what the purpose of humanity is, yeah, and what my purpose and what our future is. And I sort of have a pathway of how we can get there and what my role in that is. And that was a peak experience. I don't have those experiences anymore. It's sort of all shut down. Well, I facilitated shutting it down because it became so overwhelming. I thought I was going insane, you know. And it was a love that I've never, ever felt before or since, you know. And I know, so for me, I'm not afraid of death. I know that this is just a meat suit. This is our space suit. Who we are is a divine being, and that when we pass over, we go back to that realm, and that, you know, our design actually was to be a divine being, an angelic being in flesh. So spirit and matter are joined in one unison. And, you know, lots of things, you know, happened in that experience, and it totally, you know, my life was going down one path, and I got off the rock and roll train by asking the Great Spirit to be shown, like, and genuinely asking, not like, you know, like flippantly, but deeply within my soul, why am I here? What is my purpose? And, you know, and I got that answer, like, ask and you shall receive. And so my life has been fulfilling that pathway. Like, occasionally I go down that, I feel a bit like, you know, I wish I was doing something else, or it's not very exciting at the moment. But I know that, you know, I have a role, and I know that, you know, I'm going down that path, and that all of us are here for a purpose, and that all of us have the same capability to receive that love. And one of the major blocks is our emotional body. And so since that event, like Lee talks about, Ho'oponopono and those other things, and over the time since that experience, you know, I've done a lot of that stuff. And yeah, because I think the less emotional stuff we have, the more we're able to tune in to what our focus is, not from our ego, not from society, not from, you know, even our mentors, but what our true soul's purpose is. And sometimes our soul's purpose is in conflict with what the world wants us to do. It's not about consuming. It's not about how much money you have. It's not about what material possessions you have. It's how much you love, how connected you are to the divine, and what your impact is on other people's lives.
Absolutely. What a nice way to finish that, Georgie. That's beautiful.